Yo, what is up, guys? It's Virtual 1670 here. I've had a lot of people ask me what build I use for my rogue. Well, I use a Deathtrap build for my rogue, and I'd like to go over my skills with you. So let's dig into it. So the skills that I used going down the tree, we'll go over one by one. I put 1 point in puncture, 1 point in enhanced puncture, and fundamental puncture. I then ran down to the next tree, which is core skills, and I put 3 points into twisting blades, 1 point into enhanced twisting blades, and 1 point into advanced twisting blades. I then came down to the extra skills over here, which is sturdy and siphoning strikes. I then put 1 point into stutter step. Once you have that filled out, you're going to run down to this tree, agility skills. I went ahead and put 3 points into weapons mastery, 3 points into concussive. I put 1 point in trick attacks and 1 point into rapid gambits. That is this tree. I also put 1 point into shadow step, 1 point into enhanced shadow step, and methodical shadow step. I went down to the next tree, which is subterfuge, and I put 3 points into dark shroud, 1 point into enhanced dark shroud, and 1 point into subverting dark shroud. I put a point into poison trap and a point into enhanced poison traps. I then put 3 points into exploit and 3 points into malice. Once you're done with this tree, you're going to run down to the imbuement tree and you're going to look at deadly venom, which is 1 point, debilitating toxins, which is 3 points, and alchemical advantage, which is 1 point. Once you're done with that tree, you're going to move down to the ultimate tree, which is your ultimate. I went into death traps, prime death, and supreme death. I also put 3 points into trap mastery to help out with the traps, and innervation. I also put 1 point into adrenaline rush and 2 points into haste. And when you come down to your key passives, you're going to put one into exposure. Now, what does this mean? Well, this build is vulnerable, crit chance, crit damage, and a life is what you're going to want for skills on your gear. You're going to want cooldown reduction. Um, you don't really need to worry about your attack power because most of your skills and damage are coming from your crit chance, your crit damage, um, twisting blades, your traps. So when you're going into a mob, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to drop your dark shroud, which gives you armor, and the armor protects you. So every time something hits you, it takes one of those shrouds away, and that is up to 10% to not be consumed when you have extra points into that stat. Each active shadow shroud grants you 4% increased movement speed, which gives you way more movement speed. Surround yourself with up to 5 shadow. Gain 8.8% damage reduction per shadow. Each time you take direct damage, that damage is reduced and a shadow is consumed. The more you keep this up, the more survivability you have, along with your other armors that you have. Shadow Step. Become unstoppable and quickly move through the shadows to stab your victim from behind, doing X amount of damage. You gain a 50% increased movement speed for 2 seconds afterwards. Your modifiers are damaging an enemy with Shadow Step increases your critical strike chance. Remember, crit chance is important for Deathtrap. Enemies damaged by Shadow Step are stunned for 2.4 to 42 seconds. Sorry. Oops. Um, that being said, when you Shadow Step, it increases your regeneration. It helps with your regeneration. Your Dark Shroud helps with defensive, casting 5 shrouds around you that protect you. Poison Trap. Place a trap that arms after 1.25 seconds. It activates when an enemy moves within range, applying X amount of damage. Poisoning damage over 9 seconds to enemies in the area. You have 4 armed traps out at once. You can have. That means you could drop your traps and then pull a big mob and then go ham at them. Poison Trap knocks down enemies for 1.8 seconds when it activates. So knocking them down, so now you have knockdown, you have stun, and your skills make everything invulnerable. Your Deathtrap places a trap that arms 1.25 seconds. It activates when an enemy moves within range, dealing a total of X amount of damage, 250% damage to each enemy in the area. So it's an AoE skill. It sucks everything into one spot, and then you can just open up your poison trap. You can open up your puncture, your twisting blades. If Deathtrap kills an enemy, its cooldown is reduced by 10 seconds. Very important. You want as much cooldown reduction as you can get because you're going to want to spam traps. But when you pull big mobs and you have a lot of stuff all on you at once and you're casting your Deathtrap, it's almost instant. But you can make it even faster and do even more damage if you have cooldown reduction or some kind of cooldown, anything that helps with cooldowns. Your puncture. Your puncture is you throw 3 blades in front of you, doing in a short distance, dealing X amount of damage. Every third cast slows enemies. Again, any kind of invulnerable, stunned, dazed, cold, whatever you can get increases your damage and your multipliers on your skills, which increases your crit. It gives you a higher chance to do more damage. So, very important. Critical strikes will always slow. So, anytime you crit with this, you will slow your enemies. So, if you're trying to kite some enemies, throw some punctures at them, and hopefully you slow them all. Gain 2 energy when puncture damages a crowd controlled enemy. So when you do your Deathtrap and you suck everything in, and then you're doing punctures and twisting blades in between, it's benefiting off of each other. Now you're gaining your energy back so you can keep spamming in those big groups. Puncture now throws 3 blades in a spread, which is in a V pattern. Um, each dealing 35% of its base damage. Hitting an enemy with at least 2 blades at once makes them vulnerable for 2 seconds. Now, being vulnerable is big because the more you can keep your enemies vulnerable, the more damage you will be doing, along with your stun and your dazed. Your gear allows you to take benefit from these stuns and CCs on your character. Crowd control. Twisting blades. Impale an enemy with your blades, dealing X amount of damage and making them take 8% increased damage from you while impaled. After 1.5 seconds, the blades return to you, piercing enemies for 10,000. When your twisting blades return, your active cooldowns are reduced by 0.10 seconds per enemy they pass through, up to 2 seconds. If you take advantage of this, you're going to cast them and run through a bunch of mobs. That way, your cooldown is reduced by a lot. The more mobs, the more your cooldown is reduced. Twisting blades deals 30% increased damage when returning to you. So when your blades return to you, they will spin around your body, doing AoE damage. So now, when you're going into a mob, you're going to use your shroud, your poison trap. You're going to Deathtrap to suck everything into that poison trap. Now everything is dazed, poisoned, and stunned. Then you're going to hit them with a puncture or two and then hit your twisting blades. and then you're going to want to move back to your puncture and then hit your twisting blades. You want those blades to keep moving along with keeping your poison trap and your death trap down. It's very important. Now, when we move to our gear, we get our our aspects is what helps us do the damage that we are doing. Damaging an elite grants you a barrier absorbing up to X amount of damage for 10 seconds. This effect can only happen once every 30 seconds. This is very important because you need to be able to protect yourself when hitting an elite mob. This grants you a barrier, which then helps you not get hit at the same time. So you're pulling in a bunch of mobs, you hit them, a barrier comes up, and you absorb most of that damage, allowing you to leech back from your skills. Now, on your chest, you're going to use aspect of disobedience. You gain 0.25% chance increased, or sorry, 2.5% increased armor for 4 seconds when you deal any form of damage, stacking up to 25%. Amazing mitigation towards any kind of enemy that you're attacking. It helps. So your helm and your chest piece give you amazing mitigation towards any damage that's coming towards you, which is very important as we are hack and slash, bring in a lot of mobs, kill them all. Dealing direct damage to a vulnerable enemy has up to 43% chance to daze. Remember when I went back to my skills? Daze. Vulnerable and daze has a chance to daze them. Now, you are doing 43% or has a chance up to 43% to daze them. But you're making them vulnerable, which is awesome because it increases your damage to CC'd demons. Your pants basic skill grants 20% damage reduction for 2 seconds. Amazing again, damage reduction. Your boots. I have those boots on. I forgot to switch them over, but your boots, well, unstoppable, which you become unstoppable on, I believe it was your shadow step. Okay, so shadow step, you become unstoppable, and for 4 seconds after, you gain 10% increased movement speed and allows you to freely move through energies or through enemies. So when you cast your shadow step, you cast your twisting blades, you run through all those mobs, and those twisting blades come back, you benefit big time. Your weapon on your big bow, twisting blades, the glyph of the aspect of twisting blades is amazing. Orbits for a short time around after they return to you, dealing 30% of twisting blades. Return damage per hit. Based on the distance the blades returned, the orbit damage increases up to 60% of the returned damage. Lots of damage, guys. Like tons. There's tons of damage. I will show you guys a link down below in the description of the build that I am going with. It's not always going to be the same because you got to find the items, the stats. On your main blade, you're going to have 19% chance or a 19% increased critical strike chance against injured enemies. While you are healthy, you gain 38% increased crowd control duration. Skills up to 10% increased damage based on your available primary resource when cast, receiving the maximum benefit while you have a full primary resource. Critical strikes with core skills increases your attack speed by 20%. Amazing. Like all of these aspects are awesome. Some of them you cannot get, some of them you can only get on certain items, which I believe is this one right here. You can only get on a legendary itself, and this one here is the only one you can get on a legendary also. The other one, making an enemy vulnerable, has up to 30% chance to grant 3%, increase critical strike chance for 3 seconds, up to 9%. Again, vulnerable. Lots of damage, lots of CC. Dealing direct damage to enemies affected by your trap skills has up to 55% chance to make them vulnerable for 3 seconds. Again, vulnerable. High vulnerable build, crit chance, crit damage, survivability, and cutthroat damage. Yes, on your gear is going to help a lot because cutthroat damage is done by your twisting blades. Your twisting blades does a lot of damage with your death trap. Um, that is all I have for you guys today. This is how I play my rogue. I will show you guys some gameplay in the footage coming up after I'm done talking. If you guys liked what you see or you guys have any comments, you guys can go ahead and hit the comment section down below. You can come check me out on Twitch TV. That's Virtual 1670 on Twitch TV. Come say hello, ask me questions, pick my brain. I'll help you out. I'll do what I can. And yeah, let's get to the footage. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much. And let's go pound some demons.